Oh, yeah. Bless and love, my lords. Welcome to another live interview with Red Lion. Very nice to have you all here today with us. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. Thank you all for coming in. We have a very special guest today. We have Mr. Jake Fried, a very accomplished artist, and who also was recommended by Lana Moore on a previous podcast. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Very, very nice to have you and to have you on the show. And it's such a pleasure to meet you, man.
Yeah, same. I've seen you guys around the space for a couple of years now, so it's great to finally talk.
Yes, yes. Why don't we break the ice and you go ahead and if you want, talk to us a little bit about your origin story and your connection with art, and let's take it from there.
Okay, sure. I'm going to make this as brief as I can. I've been an artist my whole life. If you are not familiar with my work, you can go to my Twitter profile and see a bunch of it really easily. I yeah, I studied art, specifically wanted to be a painter when I was growing up, studied painting, ended up studying art history. And then after school, the beginning of my career, I was making paintings and kind of following a traditional art path. And I studied art history and was teaching in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston here, teaching studio art and teaching about the work on display in the museum and the collection. And I've been basically just kept reworking my paintings and my drawings over and over again. And I developed this unique method of moving image or animation where I rework the same image over and over again to create what I almost think of as like a moving painting. So I'm an experimental animator. And yeah, I've been putting my films out online for, almost maybe 15 years now. And a lot of my artistic journey has to do with sort of like the evolution of the internet and art online. But yeah, putting my art online, getting a lot of attention from it, and finding ways to license my work. Meanwhile, I was doing commissions every once in a while and teaching. So I transitioned from teaching at the museum to being an animation professor, and have done that for 7 or 8 years while my work developed. So, like a lot of artists in this space, I was sort of making art that lived online. It was handmade, and if you see my work, you can see in my pin post. I hand draw my work, but I kind of destroy it as I make it because I'm reworking the same image. So when I'm done, I don't have like physicals to sell necessarily. So I've always been in that weird spot where my work is recognized, but it's hard to market it, and it doesn't fit quite into traditional um, gallery spaces. And yeah, the NFT community and kind of this new space came up just the right time, and my work was sort of perfect for it. So
That must have been liberating for you.
it's very cool. I mean, as an
Mhm.
artist, I want to make work that's challenging and on the boundaries, anyways. But you kind of just make the work you want to make, and then let the world come to you. And I always knew my work's gotten a lot of recognition and been well received, so I knew it was valuable. But it was always a question of like, how does this transition into um, really like a long-term art career, and eventually having it in museums and being curated and historicized and preserved. So one thing that I was really interested in when getting into the space is just kind of the preservation of my work and the provenance of it. And it's always bothered me that my work is sort of this abstract moving image thing that lives online, and all these film festivals and at all these concerts and on TV shows, but like there it, as a digital object, like it just didn't have it wasn't defined or structured.
Mhm.
And so yeah, the NFTs, I still see it. It's like it's a pretty simple thing that was going to happen eventually. Like the stuff online that's really valuable needs to be authenticated and should be able to be sold and traded. Um,
Were you involved with crypto before you found NFT?
Honestly, no, not really. And I've heard other artists talk about this. Like crypto for me was mostly a financial instrument,
Mhm.
and I'm just not a big guy. I'm not interested in money that much. to get into it outside of my own career. I mean, looking back now, I wish I did, because I think it's a super fascinating environment, and I think there's a lot of crossover in just the way I think as an artist, and go about my life and think about the future, and what this the crypto community, which tends to be really creative, imaginative, forward thinking, and thinking about better ways that society um, can function. And yeah, just as an artist, like I'm always trying to make work that I think is like on the cutting edge and thinking about the future. And I think there's a lot of, yeah, just possibilities for us to evolve. And it's a really exciting time culturally, and the technology. And so I think the crypto kind of space is like a good place for all these kind of different people and projects to congregate. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's a perfect place for the kind of art that I make, and I'm really excited to be in the community. And through my artwork and being in crypto through my art, like I have learned a lot about finances and a lot about uh, other things,
I
which is
love
great.
talking with artists such as yourself because you have been doing your art, and like NFTs kind of like came in and provided a great solution for your conundrum, and you instantly appreciate that, even if you didn't care about crypto, which was the case for most artists.
Yeah,
And
I
this is beautiful, and a testament to like how open-minded, and like how artists are only interested in like the utility, like how are they going to make their art in there, and how this utility comes and complements their art. And I find this fascinating.
yeah, I think it's overlooked a lot in all the
Mm.
discussions in the space, that it just solves a very practical problem for a lot of digital artists. Um, and it's like not about NFTs dying or succeeding or like taking over the trad world, but it's like this is a very specific problem for the kind of some of the best art that's been being made for the last 20, 30 years. Um, and it's just bound to happen one way or another. And it's
how
not going to
did
go away.
how did you feel when you first came in contact with the NFT technology, and you were like, oh shit, I can now sell a digital artwork anywhere in the world online?
Yeah, it was very exciting. I mean, I didn't
Hmm.
know what to expect necessarily. But I mean, I have a lot to say about this. The first thing is that like it does feel like, and a lot of artists talk about this too in the space, but like vindication, where I've been making this
Hmm.
work just because it's what I want to make, and I'm fascinated by it, and um,
I
it
love
really
that you
moves
said
people.
that. It's true. It's very honest.
And then yeah, so when you just do something because you love it and you follow your own bliss, and then like 15, 20 years later, like you get a lot of positive attention and financial success from it, it feels very
Mhm.
vindicating and wonderful. But the best part, I mean, it sounds cheesy, the best part is all the people, right? It's like I've had a lot of fans of my work, but like having a community of collectors, and like having just like the daily interest, and all the conversations and different like the conversation around right now around the work, that's the best part. I feel like I really appreciate this community, and that the art, it's all very active. Where I think a lot of like being an artist, it felt like my community was very passive. They would see my work at galleries, they would see it at festivals, they would see it in their film classes, but I wasn't like a part of it, and it wasn't like, I don't know. I didn't have like the community that were like a community. And the last 2 years in this space, I feel like there's like a real community around my work, and there's people who are like really rooting for it in a different way. And my connection with other artists, and collecting with other artists, and allying with different projects and brands and people in the space, like it just feels way more active, and like we're building something and moving forward. Um, and I think it's going to make it makes my work like more historically important. Like it was part of a historical period where like lots of people were involved, and we're all building it together and watching it happen in real time. And I like having my art be a part of the conversation. So yeah, like being on Twitter, like this is all kind of new, right? But it's like
Mm.
being an artist where you wake up every day and like you post work and your community's right there. Like that's the part of it that I really like the most.
Um, Let me expand a little bit on that, because I find that as well very interesting. And in the same in the same way that the fame game has changed. We see celebrities that were detached. They show up, they do the promo, and then they fuck off.
Yeah.
And now the fame game, it's a daily thing. You have to keep up with your with your audience. Did NFTs provide that extra layer to the artist to be able to do that? Has the art game changed the same way as the fame game?
I think so. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, I don't know about the fame game, but like, um, how do I say it has changed it for a lot of like I've talked about this in other interviews, like because like I was saying before, like not super interested in finances or money and never like making my art to get rich necessarily. I've always wanted to support myself, but when you introduce like the market to your work, it does make it much more easier to engage with people, and people reach out to you and people aspire to like collect your work, and other artists want to know how you make your work and navigate your career. So I think in a way, it's just sort of like I'm telling the space and the world around me, like I'm putting my shit out there, engage with me, engage with it, versus like, yeah, this is my work, don't talk to me. And I do think like it's changing not just for celebrities, but just generally for artists, um, where yeah, you'd have a narrative that was like crafted for you and uh, and put out there, and the gallery would sort of like protect you and control your collector base and put out press releases. Um, I think it's definitely I guess harder or different lifestyle for an artist, but it feels much more authentic to me and natural for me to just kind of do it all myself and be just really transparent. Um, and so yeah, I think just like especially because this is such a new space and we're all figuring it out together. Like there's a lot of subtext to me putting my work out there and showing people what I think being an artist is and how I want to engage with the world as an artist. And yeah, I mentioned this briefly, but like because I my main source of income, like before getting into the NFT space, was teaching and being a professor. Like so much of my life and my job has been about communicating about art and talking about art and having conversations about art. And my life is just like about making my own art and talking about other people's art and teaching about art. And this space has allowed me to sort of bring that all together into like my brand or my personality. And I like that a lot, and it felt like very difficult to do that before this space because like how would I do that without I don't even know like having a YouTube channel where I would like make videos about stuff I like. There was just no way to really have a community as an artist. Um, so yeah, it's very real.
Hmm. Um, with your art, you mentioned earlier you deconstruct and you break and then you make the next one. So it was very hard to present the actual process through and sell the artwork. But that changed with NFTs, and you can actually sell your animations. But how do you make them? What is the process exactly? Can you run us over that, please?
Yeah, sure. So again, it's a very simple process, but it's like once you it can be hard to sort of comprehend. But look at my pinned tweet because you can see me actually working and it shows some of the process. I I work differently from time to time, but most generally I just have one piece of paper on my desk, some like pens, some whiteout, maybe some paint or coffee, and I just draw like a normal drawing on a paper. Then I scan that drawing into my computer and pull it up on the computer. So I have like an image on Photoshop of the scan of the drawing. I take the drawing out of the scanner and then I rework it. So I'll draw on top of it or I'll paint parts of it. And again, it's very kind of straightforward. But if you look, I've developed this process to do some really complicated, dense things with it. But I'm just reworking the drawing on top of it. So by like erasing or adding, and then I scan that next image. And then I pull it up on the computer and I have a sequence of like 1 to 2 images. Um, then I pull the paper out and I redraw on it and I scan it. I have 3 images, take the paper out, and I do that over and over again on the same piece of paper for months up to a year. So you can see like some of my one of ones are 1 minute pieces. Those are my big long ones. Those are around 1,500 iterations of the same drawing. And it's just like very slow and methodical work. Um, and it's what makes my work really unique, this process. So my work is really process driven, where I don't storyboard, I don't have like a grand plan when I make these things. And if you watch the video, you can see it's very slow. So I'm literally working one frame at a time and just letting these things evolve over time. And so to me, they're like this sort of like stream of consciousness over the course of like thousands of hours, which is a very strange effect. We don't typically see this type of expression. Um, and they're sort of like my journal. It's like every day I'm working on the same thing and reworking the same object. Um, I really like this way of creating. For me, it's like there's no erase button, there's no going backwards. Every frame is equal to every other frame, and it's like every drawing is part of a larger whole. Um, and that's sort of where this work developed from. Like I felt this sense of like I could never finish a drawing or painting, just like never felt like enough to me, or it just felt like it didn't there was more there when I was drawing than like this single image could show people. Um, and when I sort of had the breakthrough of like, I don't have to be a painter, I can like kind of like exploring with NFTs. For me, exploring with the moving image for me at the time was when I first did it was like pushing myself out of my comfort zone because I'd never studied film or animation or really thought of myself as a filmmaker. And to let these things move and sort of be like the evolution, the process of drawing is the work. That was the big breakthrough for me. Um, so yeah, that's how the work is made. And I just keep the process stays the same, but I keep exploring different ways of approaching movement. Um, and I think of every frame as its own work of art, but it's very famous in animation to say like the drawings themselves are not the art. It's like the way they move. It's like reading between the lines. Um, and so, yeah, I just think I really like these things. They're like sort of magic to me. They're these living drawings.
When I first saw your art, sorry, when I first saw your art, it reminded me a little video I was watching like 10 years ago by a street artist named Blue, who
Yeah.
was doing these animations on graffiti walls. And I thought, damn, that looks similar.
Yeah, we started doing this stuff around the same time, and Blue is a
Hmm.
great artist, and I show his work to my students all the time. Yeah, I could say like Blue. William Kentridge is another famous artist who works with charcoal and would rework the drawing. So let's go to the rostrum animation. This idea of instead of having like a flip book or individual frames, that you're kind of reworking the same surface to create an animation. There's a few artists who work in that domain. Yeah, Blue's work is awesome.
Yeah, when that came out, it blew my mind, man.
Yeah, that's great stuff, and I, uh, I personally think there's so much room for exploration and
Mm.
experimental animation as a medium, and with the rise of smartphones and apps, like I'm seeing a lot more and more of it, and it's really wonderful. And like I was saying too, like my art has evolved with the way like technology and the internet has evolved, and there was a very clear sign to me when I was kind of transitioning from a traditional painter to a moving image artist that this is like the era of the moving image with screens and cell phones and streaming video, and it's just it's such an exciting time to explore that medium, and especially kind of in short form. Like we've had cinema and film and television for a long time, but this sort of like short form video living everywhere all over the world at all times is it's still very new. And so I feel really lucky and like to be an artist in this period who gets to be one of the first generations to really explore it.
But the bottleneck was selling that animation, right? As a art.
Yeah, I mean, I was perfectly if NFTs never happened or whatever, like I was perfectly happy making my work
Hmm.
and I did fine. Like again, I was licensing it and doing
Hmm.
commissions for Netflix and Adult Swim and what I really to get yeah, it's sort of like having worked in the museum, you see this it takes a long time for new mediums to get recognition and to be sort of historicized and canonized and understood, and like with that comes like the valuations and the prices and all that stuff. And I knew my work is special and like it's gotten a lot of attention. It just felt like it's the I I I I have collectors who want to collect my work. That's something we didn't get into too. But having people collect your work, those collectors, they advocate for you and they bring you opportunities and they promote
Hmm.
you in a way that like if I they didn't own my work, they wouldn't do that, right?
Hmm.
And I have very specific examples the last 2 years of collectors who have done that for me. Um, and even collectors who don't collect my work but who are doing it for me because promoting this space is beneficial for them. Um, so all those things were just like I I really feel like my work was asking for it, like it wanted it. So I'm letting the work tell me what it wants to be and where to take me. And I've kind of come to all these crossroads over time. Like when I first got asked to do work for Adult Swim and Netflix, it was like I'm an artist. I don't make shit for television.
Hmm.
And then it was like kind of coming to terms with like why not? And like that's where most people are seeing like animation and like it's cool to have that crossover and get your work into more mainstream audiences. Um, so that's the way I feel about kind of the NFT space. Is like it's just this why not? And it's so perfect. And like people are literally like, how did I get into the space? It's like people were telling me to do it because they wanted to buy my work. So it's like sometimes you just you just get out of the way of yourself and let it happen.
You mentioned earlier that being a teacher and an artist, in your life, you were always talking about your art or other people's art. I think that's great. And have you found inspiration in NFTs? Have you discovered any great artists through NFTs?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a collector. You can look Jake Fried Vault. You can go on OpenSea and find it. I
Yeah, that
post
was the
about it
next
quite a bit.
question.
Yeah. So not I've the that's the whole other end of it. It's like I love the being able to discover other artists. I love that the NFT space is very unique in that the crossover of mediums and skill levels and backgrounds and where people are from around the world like it's all over the place in this space in a way it's not in the traditional world, which is amazing. So I've been experimental animator. Most of my shows and my awards and the attention I've gotten in the press has been in like the animation community and kind of underground illustration or comic community. But in this space, it's like everything, and my work's in every community. And I'm friends with generative artists, and I'm friends with photographers, and I'm friends with um, illustrators and conceptual artists, and it's all kind of mixed together. And I think that's way more healthy in the way it should be. And even teaching at an art school where like I teach in the animation department, it always feels like departments are like kind of meaningless, or not meaningless, but they're sort of like these fake divisions we make up that all these arts are kind of separate disciplines. And the students, I always encourage them to like do a lot of crossover and like study glass making and study improv theater while they're studying animation and like you got to bring in stuff from other places. So yeah, I'm constantly inspired by other artists and I'm collecting work from other artists. And then I'll just say on a more like meta level, like I'm spending every day like in this space, like consuming the culture, interacting with people in the space, being on Twitter, like being on, Web3 marketplaces and looking at on cyber galleries and bidding on work. And so it's like, of course, that's going to inform my work. My work is very, um, it's all a reflection of myself. It's all self portrait. I'm an expressionist, right? Like if you look at my work, it's like very clearly about like human experience and my own personal experience. So yeah, it's coming into my work, and I think I like to deal with like archetypes and big timeless themes in my work, and I see a lot of that in this space too, um, where like all the movements in the space are they feel like metaphors for larger things. I don't know, just with the meme coin thing and like everyone's talking about holding to zero, and I just thought like hold to zero is just like a beautiful. It's like a metaphor. It's beyond this space. It's about like hope, holding on to something until watching it die in your hands. Like it feels like we're dealing with like big human emotions in this space, and like
Copium.
yeah, hope and cope and FUD and pumping your bags and like all that stuff is kind of like human behavior and nature and what we're all doing in the world every day. Um, and so like yeah, that's sort of like the acronyms and the slang and just the crypto culture, uh, I definitely think about it a lot when I'm making my work. Um, and when I post my work in to people in the space, like I often think about the way it reflects on what's happening in the space and how it relates to the space. Um, I hope people can recognize that sometimes.
What is your opinion as someone who has been in contact with traditional art establishments, that it's hard for them to accept NFTs? There is a resistance. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah. Well, first I'll say like there's a lot of parts of NFTs that are really stupid, and so like it's about education, but like it's not wrong to say like a bunch of stuff in the NFT space isn't great, and like I think that big conversation of like separating the art from like a lot of other things in this space is just confusing to the general public. So yeah, when I tell a normie that I'm in NFTs, they think of the bored apes, right? And then if I talk about being a digital artist, then they understand. But the term NFTs is still confusing for people, and I think a lot of the PFP culture has made it more difficult for people like me to onboard to a certain respect, and that's fine. And the bigger picture is like having worked in museums and working in universities and being an artist is like people need to recognize like it's from the ground up, right? Um, Art and culture start with real authentic artists in the world. And we can think about like hip hop or graffiti, like you were talking about Blue, or the work I'm making, like artists making work that goes online on, traded around and art made for art's sake, for like real culture. And then that's when it starts to become put in festivals and collected and put in galleries and historicized, and then museums take notice, and you know curriculums at schools and syllabi start to include your work. And I saw that in my own career and saw my work sort of rise up through that. So museums aren't the tastemakers really, and like uh, what I would say is like it's all going to happen. Just like the best art is going to be recognized, and like it will be respected. And like it's not that there's trad versus digital. It's all going to rise together. So I think people should be patient, and they should also be really excited for the fact that like I sold my work at Christie's last summer. Like it's very normalized already for these big auction houses to sell NFTs. We see NFTs going in LACMA and Buffalo Museum of Art, and my works was screened at the Orlando Museum of Art for the last few months, and as an NFT with a QR code to the NFT. Like so, it already happened. I guess is what I'm saying. Um,
Yeah, and congratulations
yeah,
for that. I was just checking it before the interview. I think it went for $63,000, right?
yeah, the piece at
Mm.
Christie's. Yeah, that was my one NFT sale. That was been in USD. Um, uh, but yeah, so it's kind of like for me, I'm in a privileged place where I've done really well in the space. I have again, it solved a problem for me, and I'm already seeing the like. I haven't got. I'll just say this: like I've gotten no pushback or negative feedback from anyone ever about being in this space.
Hmm.
And I'm on Instagram. I work at an art school with young people. I'm a normal guy in the real world. Like, so I think a lot of the hate on NFTs is from like the mainstream media, I guess, and a lot of that like PFP stuff and like a lot of the noise about, to be frank, like the Yuga stuff and like getting it on Jimmy Fallon and like all the fake kind of hype, which I'm not a huge fan of either. So I agree with people who are confused about that.
Hmm. Would
Um,
you say that we are going through a period of immaturity, same as YouTube was going through at the beginning? It was
no,
only fart
I don't
videos.
know. I think it's cool. I actually think it's part of like the crypto
Hmm.
culture and like talking about getting rid of gatekeepers or like being too stuffy. Like I actually
Hmm.
think the sense of humor and the casual nature of this space is really healthy and cool. And I think
Hmm.
kind of like a contemporary idea that we see with like let's just say like Elon Musk, like this idea of like influential people are just very casual and straightforward and in this certain culture we're in right now. And I like that. And I think the sense of humor about my work and being in the space is like is good. Um, I what was I going to say? I think it's still really early. That's what I'll say. And I was going to say this too. I've had traditional collectors reach out over the past couple of years. The
Mhm,
big thing that's holding them back is like the volatility of crypto.
mhm,
Not the art. They all get the digital art is valuable and they want to collect it. They get what the blockchain is and how it works. Um, it's like obviously security issues because we see a lot of people losing their stuff and all that. But the big one is like I'm going to buy this on super rare for this much Ethereum. What is Ethereum going to be worth in a year? Like, how do I know this is like a safe investment? And like
Well,
they're
since
not
they have their money in dollars, they can
right.
convert to it, buy it, and they paid with dollars.
Yeah, essentially, right? I
Yeah,
agree.
they
But
will eventually get there, I
yeah,
think.
and some of them have done it. Some of them got
Hmm.
really close. But I, so I know a lot of people are like, we should price in USD more, blah, blah, blah. I personally feel it's kind of counterintuitive, but I feel like the barrier to entry with the tech being still really hard to use and kind of complicated, and Ethereum being, kind of volatile and confusing, I kind of somehow that's like made the space what it is
Hmm.
and allowed it to grow and be authentic. And like, you kind of have to be like intelligent and curious and involved to kind of take part in it.
Hmm. And
And so all
freaky.
the yeah, and all these people the last couple of years have been like, once Coinbase has the market, once Instagram does NFTs, blah blah. Blah. And it's like, the I'm not super excited about it going like mainstream like that right away,
Me
because I
neither.
think that will ruin what we're doing.
Hmm.
It's actually I think it's actually really good where it's at. It's too small for sure, but there's something about it being like yeah difficult and like people have to get it that I think is good, and that the collectors who get it now and are really taking advantage of it, like I feel like they get it that this is like a
Yeah.
great opportunity for them to collect amazing work and have an
And it's nice
influence.
that nativity matters. It's not, any company's game.
Yeah, I mean that's my favorite part. You were kind of talking about this
Mm.
before, but that big brands and big celebrities can't figure it out. I mean, but
Penetrate.
people like me and other artists and like authentic um, project builders are the ones who are succeeding, and the big brands and the celebrities, it comes across as such a cash grab and fake. Um, and I think that's kind of great because what I like about good art and real artists and the space is the authenticity.
Exactly. And have you talked about NFTs, or are you teaching about NFTs in your classes now? And what sort of feedback are you getting from all the young artists you come in contact with through the classes?
Yeah, so I talk about my life and my work in my classes, so it comes up. Um, how do I put this? Well, for the most part, my students they're still students, and they're not. I'm not encouraging them to like go out and mint a bunch of NFTs and make a bunch of money. I want them to be very serious about their careers, and for the most of them, they're very consciously aware that they're still in this state of becoming and finding themselves and their voice, and that they still have to mature and build their brand, and that like they don't need to put it all out right away. And like one thing about the NFT space that everyone should understand is like the permanent nature of it, and that it's they're smart. It's just like social media. It's like you have to curate your social media. You don't want to tell the world everything about you. And a lot of my students are not like me. Like most art people, trying to be an artist, an independent artist, is like very difficult, right? And most people in art school are looking for a way to get a job, especially in animation. So they want to be animators at studios, or they want to work on narrative um, projects, like character animation stuff. Um, the ones who want to be an experimental filmmakers, uh, for them, like I want them, they should be trying to make the best work possible, and that's still like like go to festivals, like do your research, like connect with other animators, like be in real art communities. And like sales and success and all that stuff will follow from there. But you don't need to like start building your career through sales right away. And I don't think any young artist should be making work to sell it, because I think that's really dangerous. And that's when you start making work that you think other people
Why
want,
do you think so?
because it's very different when you're first starting out. It's hard not to make work that you think other people will like or will want, or that like will sell well. And that's not, as an artist, what you should be focusing on.
Does it
Um,
matter though?
what matter?
Does it matter how it's perceived?
Yes,
Hmm.
I'm saying you should be you should want, like, yeah, I'm saying they should commend their work, but I'm saying the students I know, most of them, they're not in a place where like I'm saying they should go run out and do that. Big picture though, it's like I'm showing them and I'm telling them a couple things. First of all, like, this is a time more than any other time where you can make a living as an independent animator, not just from licensing your work or doing music videos and stuff, but like you can actually sell your work as works of art and collect it and look at how it works, and like it all makes a lot of sense. And this is still a new technology, and it requires a lot of sophistication and maturity to understand it, but it's happening and it's only going to grow. um, it's also a lesson to them to say, like, when I was in school and I was your age, I didn't even know I was going to be an animator. I wasn't even animating yet. I did not. And if streaming video and YouTube didn't exist really, and I certainly didn't know the NFT space was going to come about, and like 20 years later, and I was going to be doing something in it. So the big lesson to them is to like be adaptable, always be learning, always see what's going on, be curious, and that you have to make opportunities for yourself.
Hmm.
Um, Amongst my colleagues and like people, my fans pre NFT space, I feel like, I don't know, it's really cool for them to see that like I'm an artist, and they saw how I went about my career, and that to see me being rewarded and getting collected with the price levels of like other contemporary artists of my, at a high level, I think is very exciting. And hopefully, like, it's a good thing for the experimental animation community, and will inspire other people to pursue art making and to work at it. So I hope it's like, it's not about the money, but people seeing that I'm doing well and that it's possible to make a career and a living doing this, I hope is inspiring my students and other young people in the space to make art. And ultimately, that's wonderful and what I want.
Hmm. Um, Man, as you mentioned, when I was young, there was no YouTube. I have said that in a lot of interviews. I think about this a lot, man. Like, I'm so jealous of the kids nowadays. They have like a computer basically on their pocket. It has games, music, everything, and they can fucking book like electric scooters and shit. What the fuck, man?
Hmm.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just think ahead, like all the stuff that's happened in our lifetime
Hmm.
and how much it's changed culture and
Hmm.
art. Like, there's no doubt that's going to be happening over the next 20 to 30 years from now. So, what an exciting time to be alive! Like,
Exactly.
it's awesome, and I'm here for
um,
it.
you mentioned earlier. Oh shit! Forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I forgot my next question. Anyways, I don't know if you want to add something where people can find your work, and what are your plans for the next 2023?
Yeah, sure. So there's a link in my Twitter profile to all the links to all my work. So you can go to my website and watch like a mini documentary about me and hear me talk about my work a bit more and see some of my process, and then watch some of my films and see where it's screening. Um, there's a couple things going on. Also, right now, my work, Art Crush, is a cool project that's bringing NFTs to like all these digital billboards around the world. So my work's been in New York and Milan, and is going up in Amsterdam and London soon, and we'll be going to other cities. Um, there you can see my one-on-one. So I had 4 one-on-ones on Super Rare. Those are all sold. Some are on secondary for very high prices, but you can check them out. AOTM, if people aren't familiar, is sort of like one of the first sort of like legit NFT galleries. It represents like 40 artists. And I sold my last one of one with AOTM, and I have another one of one that's listed now on AOTM. So you can go to AOTM, and there's an editorial about me there, and they an on cyber gallery with my work. And AOTM is talking about how the space is still new and needs to evolve and is evolving. AOTM was just a few months ago the first time where all my NFTs were actually like hosted in one place, and all the contracts were kind of and everything was sort of cleanly organized like a traditional gallery would do with an artist's work. So that's a great place to sort of just see stuff that's out there, along with Escher, which is a new website doing great work, which shows all my editions, and you can buy them there, and protects royalties and things like that.
Mhm.
Um,
So maybe you should introduce us. We should have a AOTM gallery here. Have a chat
yeah,
with these guys.
100%. I'll send you in a DM the person to contact for that.
I,
Um,
I I like this chain. Lana Moore recommended Jake Fried. Jake Fried recommends AOTM gallery. I think it's cool.
that's
let's
how this
keep
space works. And yeah, Lana Moore
let's
is a
keep
great
the
person.
chain going.
Yeah, so AOTM would be a great person to talk about. If you guys are not familiar, you should just go look at the artist roster. It's essentially like the best artists in the space. I mean, it's very impressive, and that's part of the history of the space. Is like getting on Super Rare when I first came into space was like a big deal, right? And really
Hmm.
wonderful. And then we saw that maybe Super Rare got maybe over curated and it got a bit noisy and became difficult to understand what was going on. And AOTM became sort of like an even more curated sort of platform. And yeah, if people who are not artists in the space don't understand, like the evolution of how to be an artist in the space and the way it sort of evolved over the last 2 years is it's a lot has changed, and it feels like it's growing and going in a positive direction, and we're building it as we speak, and it's very cool. And I'm very proud that I have a lot of work on chain from the last 2 years to show I was here early, and that can be integrated into all these new platforms as we grow. Going back though, like my editions are things I'm currently trying to sell always. I don't have anything on primary, but there are some really juicy secondary deals on my editions right now. Because obviously the downtrend in the market, and we see some people kind of capitulating. So there's, my editions have held up really well, but there are good prices on a few of them today specifically. You want to check those out. And I don't know how much alpha to share, but I do have a drop coming this summer.
Yeah, do share.
All right. I haven't really talked about this yet, but I can start talking about it. I'm not going to give
Hmm.
details, but I have some of the let me just back up. Some of the best things about the space have been like the real life events. So we just had NFT NYC, which is wonderful, and seeing my work up in Times Square, really big, and a bunch of different galleries with um,
Did
transient
you come
labs.
to our event?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There,
I will
dude. I mean,
forgive you this time.
that it's impossible.
I
I
know.
don't know if
Just
people
kidding.
understand how hard it is to do everything there. I mean, it's insane actually. But yeah,
But
that
yeah,
and having
congratulations for going up on Times Square.
Yeah, thank you. My work loves to be big, so it's very cool. Not just it's just cool to see my work that big, let alone kind of getting the attention. But Art Basel in Miami has been really great to see my work in real life, and like every time my NFT work is displayed, essentially, like again, like talking about the digital to traditional. My work's been in galleries and museums before NFTs. They are now, but now they have like here's the authentic owner of it, or here's a way to see it like on chain, and like that just adds a it's very important difference. So yeah, I just had my work up in Tokyo with a bunch of other great artists at When. So I love that. And then my Night Vision series is my one collection. It's individual frames from my Super Rare Genesis, all 1,440 of them. So that's always going to be sort of like my most accessible collection and a way to own my work. And then uh, I have benefits for holding it. Like I'm trying to basically only release work to people who hold my work already as sort of like an allow list. That's something we've learned in this space too. When I drop my work, if I don't have an allow list, it's just botted immediately, or there's so many flippers and stuff, which is great that there's attention on it, but it's not the best way. So night vision series, if you don't have one, I recommend you grab one. I have my GM post this morning, shows some of those. But what I did with those is if you own one of those, you could order a one of one signed print for me of those. So you got a physical from it. And I've done, a couple dozen of those, and they look beautiful. And I really like the crossover between physicals and my digital work, because again, my work is physically made, and like I want people to display my work in their homes, whether they buy it as an NFT or not. So I have a physical limited edition drop tied to an NFT this summer. It's fucking incredible. I can't. I've had a proof of one of these. It's not. I don't even want to kind of explain what it is yet, but
Hmm.
I've had one in my house for the past couple of weeks, and I just am so excited about it. It's
So
just gorgeous.
when reveal?
I don't know. You gotta wait. But it's gonna be this summer, and I will definitely talk about it and show people. But
Are you coming to Lisbon?
it's something where like bringing my animation work in real life and
Hmm.
tying it to the NFT in a really beautiful way. I'm super excited about it, and I do think like the bigger mission of in my life and artists is like kind of what people want in this space, like tying my career and my work to like traditional physical art and the NFT and make it all one thing, and just like being an artist, over the next 10 years, you're not an NFT artist. You're using this technology for ways that it solves problems with your work, and it ultimately becomes like just the go-to certificate of authenticity for all work. And like a lot of physical work would be great to have, like, right, I own a painting from a painter. I want to have all the benefits of the when I own work from an NFT artist, where it's like I'm part of your community, I'm in your Discord, I get stuff from you, if or benefits. I have like authenticity of ownership on the blockchain that I can share with people and flex, like all that stuff. So I just see like it all kind of coming together and merging. I'm not going to Lisbon. I was invited, and I got one of their tickets as an NFT like 6 months ago. I have a young daughter. I'm a teacher. It's just like not possible.
You live in Boston, you said?
Yeah,
All right. Well, it is a
is
short
that?
flight from
I
Boston. It's
know.
not too far.
I should. I mean, the truth is, like, I could go. I'm trying to balance. Like, I got to work on my own stuff, and I don't.
Yeah, come. We
I
have a
can't just.
picnic at the parking at the
This is
park.
what again. I'm like, there's like events. If I wanted to go, I could be gone every weekend around the world, which is great. And there's so much. I don't get a lot of FOMO from missing. Well, I do, but missing mints. But like seeing people in Austin last couple weeks, and everyone going to Lisbon, like I get FOMO, and people are going to VCon. I'm not going to that.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I'm missing out all the time on stuff, and I just got to let it go. But what I really want to do, I'll say this about New York and other stuff, is like I got to get to a place in my career where like I can just set up shop somewhere and have people come to me, because it's just too hard to bounce around and go to everything. It's like,
That's
and
nice, man. That's
yeah,
nice. By the way, before we close, I remember what I wanted to ask you earlier.
yeah,
I met two professors of art, and they are very bullish on meme NFTs. And
yep,
since you come from a more like a sort of like serious background, I wanted to ask you what is your opinion on that? Because you
yeah. Oh,
mentioned earlier you like the culture.
great question. So, outside of NFTs, my work is I've always tried to make work that feels timeless. I'm, and we don't need to get deeper into that necessarily, but like a lot of artists are more topical, right? And like some are like very topical, like political cartoonists. Um, uh, but a lot of art reflects, yeah, politics, culture, celebrities. We've seen this in the traditional art world. A lot of art the last 20 years has been about social media, and because of like art fairs and festivals becoming sort of the main hub of like the art world, we see a lot of sculptures and art that sort of interacts with the viewer and cell phones, and are something you could like post on your Instagram stories. So memetics and online culture has infiltrated art as it should, just like pop culture, pop art kind of started this trend, and even before that, really. But yeah, the modern life in the world is always going to come into art. But my art specifically, like, I almost shy away from bringing in like brand images or talking about current political events. I try to be more, um, again, more symbolic and more holistic and really kind of in my own head. So when I'm in the NFT space, I'm not like, there's just not an instinct for me personally to bring a lot of like, like ETH symbolism or X copy, references into my work. But I totally understand why other artists do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think it's a very natural reaction to being in this community and to reflect culture. And I think artists bringing Mickey Mouse and SpongeBob and,
No, but I'm
into the
talking
work is very
about
normal.
real shit stuff, like really good stuff, like I don't know, dick
Yes,
butts, larva chads,
exactly.
and
So I'm
stuff
saying
like that. Not,
that I'm into that stuff, and that's where
yeah.
I'll just say, like, that's why I did a I don't think this is a meme necessarily, but I do have to
Mhm.
say it publicly every time I'm in an interview. Cryptodes is the best PFP. Cryptodes are highly underrated. They're fucking amazing. And no, I'm super bullish on the toads, no joke. Um, and yeah, as far as I'm concerned, most of the PFP stuff could be wiped away, but like cryptodes are the cream of the
I
crop, and they're going
have
to be
two. I never sold
me
them.
too. Yeah, and
I
you
should
should
have
never.
sold them when they were 15 ETH. I'm so stupid.
No, you
But
shouldn't have, because they're
well,
worth a
I
lot
would
more than
have
that.
more now.
You should have sold them and then bought more. That's true.
Yeah.
Um, I did a fake. I mean, obviously Pepe's been hot shit the last couple of weeks, so I can just say I did a fake rare
Mhm.
Pepe, and people are familiar with it last summer, and I so happy I did it, and um, I think Pepe. I mean, this community will understand more than anyone, and I'm not joking because I'm not pumping anything, but I think Pepe. There's something really magical about the Pepe meme. Um,
Yeah, of course. It's a
that
movement.
nothing
It's
else.
an art movement.
It's an art. It's just like the perfect. It's just so amorphous, and it's such a mirror,
Mm.
and it can represent anything. And it's because it's been like every community tries to steal it and take ownership of it. It just kind of belongs to everyone, and it's still subversive enough and weird enough where it's like in a way SpongeBob could never be. Like, it's just like the perfect meme. It's the
Yeah,
ultimate
fuck
thing, and
SpongeBob.
it's a
He's
fucking
good and all, but he's no Pepe.
yeah, because I mean, I'm in the animation community, and like I work with young people, and like so I know about memes, and
Mm,
SpongeBob memes have been a huge part of like my animation department for like 15
mm,
years, and memes in general. And actually, animation community is some of the best meme makers in general.
mm.
Um, and I've seen the power of memes to educate. When memes really are working well, they actually distill something culturally that's like you have to be in the know to get it, and it's like it's social commentary of the highest form. It's actually a really, when
Mm.
done well, it's an art form. It really is. um
I agree.
but yes, I just think the Pepes are super magical, and especially in the NFT space, we know the history with the rares. Um, that I tell people, like, yeah, my fake rare, my fake freed is like the most unserious sort of art that I put out there. But it would not surprise me if it becomes like some of the most valuable
Well, you never
because of the
know.
power of memetics and the historical nature of it,
Mm.
and the people who've collected it. And like, if people don't know, like, dude, the Pepe community is like, whenever I'm in New York or Miami, like that's the best hangout. Like, that's where the real ones are. Like, it's the Pepe's just like, it's because it's not like we were talking about before. It's not. It's authentic. It's not a brand. It's not owned by anyone. It's silly. It's subversive. It's it's it brings out the best in people, and has a really pure culture around it. So um, I'm aware of that power of the memetics. I don't know. I was in a this is my humble brag. I was in a show with Joe Pease like more than a decade ago that was curated by Saatchi and Saatchi, of like hot young directors, um, and the person who did the intro was Oh God, now his name's escaped me. The guy who coined the term memes. Um, the microbiologist. So Richard Dawkins. There we go.
Mhm.
Richard Dawkins talking about memes and the way that like
Oh
cultural
yeah,
genetics
I've seen him
and
on South Park.
yeah. So, but he was talking about memes in like all art and history and culture and symbolism is memetics. It's
Mhm.
like it's like biology. It's like genetics and mutations and evolution. And internet memes are just the latest variation on that. So I think a lot of people in the space mistake memes for internet memes, and that memes is a larger thing. And so memetics, I'm super interested in it.
Mm.
Essentially, as an artist, that's all we're doing. We're playing with images and cult and symbols.
Jake, we lost you there. Hello?
Uh,
Mm.
insider
Hello?
jokes.
We lost
Oh,
you there a
I'm
little
sorry.
bit.
I just got a
You blanked out.
I just got a phone call. Can you hear me?
Uh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah, now we can.
pontificating on internet memes, and uh,
Mm.
it's not worth it. But it's like, let me say this here. I'll bring it full circle. Uh, the art world like that I'm in and like where it's becoming is becoming more internet focused, and most people consume art online now, and most people see art and discover art. Even real art collectors in museums and galleries, guess where they're discovering artists? On Instagram and Twitter. Like that's where art lives. And so the home of internet memes and the home of high art are on the same timeline. And you just think about what that does psychologically for people and how like they start to just blend and become part of the same world. And that's what's happening. And it's awesome.
Exactly. Well, everybody, you heard it here first. Like every art teacher I've spoken to is bullish on memes and meme art. So yeah, that makes me want to double down on those choices.
Let
Um,
me say this too. The
but
best memes in this
mhm.
space are like Tijo's Blue. I did a Blue Moon piece, which is like using the CCO. But like when the art itself becomes the meme, um, that's really powerful culturally, and it's really cool to see when that
Mm.
happens in this space too.
Sort of similar when the singers say, "Oh, the song is so popular, it's not mine anymore; it belongs to the people."
Hmm.
I think it's a good analogy. Well, this has been great, Jake. What a great pleasure to meet you, man, and amazing conversation. Thanks for taking the time and coming to the show. I'd like to invite you back in the summer if you wanna come. As you said, you have something fucking
Oh yeah, that
amazing
would
to
be
show
awesome
us.
to promote it when I actually have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. Thank you so much for having me. Um, and yeah, everyone here, you should know, like I love talking. I'm a part of this community. Like, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Um, and again, thanks for having me.
All right. Big shout out everybody. I see down there Ray, Dudley Abolisher, Ti, Chromie, 3D Punk, Semina, Gora, Saigo, Raul, Rosie Beck. Everybody, thank you so much for coming in. Don't forget, guys, to check out the Gazette. We have a wonderful cover that goes with an artwork by Soriso. This exhibition we have is curated by Filtered Art and OMZ, and it's about Brazilian artists. The exhibition is called Samba. So yeah, it is really really cool. Do check it out. Check out Jake Fried's art. He has all the links in his Twitter. And yeah, thank you so much for listening in. Until next time, take good care. Bye bye.